If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
572-9762.
Hey guys, if you like the show and you want to show your support, check out the Opperman Report Patreon. We have all the shows that you hear Monday through Friday on AM/FM radio, but we cut out the ads, so you can hear that content ad-free. The Opperman Report Patreon, you should stop there once a day and check out what's going on over there. That's Opperman Report Patreon.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman, and unfortunately I did not stay young until I died. I got old. Okay, what are you going to do there, right? I've lived a life. I can't complain. Okay, welcome to the show. I am your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You can reach me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. If you go to my email, oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. You're going to be hearing about some of my good old PI work tonight. Katie Doe case. Okay, they don't, the Katie Johnson case is what the public calls it. The Katie Johnson lawsuit against Trump and Epstein, raped when she was 13 years old. If you like our show, be sure to check out our Patreon. Now, keep an eye on my Patreon, the Opperman Report Patreon. I have up there. We just had that big July 1st, the unsealing of the 2006 grand jury transcript from Palm Beach County in the Epstein case. Okay. And I have the entire transcript up there, and then I have all the exhibits up there. They're in 2 separate postings. You got to look around a little bit. You can't call me up all the time and ask me, where do I find this guy? You got to make a little effort, I'm not your butler. I'm not Alfred. I'm not Alfred the butler, bringing you your warm milk. Also, too, we have Project 2025. That's up there. And then there was so much craziness going on this week. With this Katie Johnson lawsuit, it became viral on Twitter, and I'm trying to explain to people that's my case. Okay, I was the PI in that case, and so all these people are posting all this misinformation. I'm trying to explain to them what's going on, but no, poo-poo, Ed, go away. I have 200,000 Twitter followers. I'm the expert here because I don't post the wrong one. Oh God. So anyway, I have that up there too for people to see and read. And it's all good information. Okay? And it's the right one, not the one that's being posted on Twitter. Now, if you want to find our archives, you go to Spreaker.com. I do a live show there every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a chat room. And you get an email notification when I put up new content. And I'm constantly putting up repeats. I put up repeats all day long. I'm a little out of it today, man. It's a rough day. I taped an interview with a Professor Stephen Zunis about the Richard Menendez, the House Senate Foreign Committee chairman who got caught with the gold bars and all that stuff. I interviewed him about that. It's a good interview. He's 67. I'm going to be 63 coming up, and I got to tell you something, man. The both of us were out of breath just from trying to do this interview. It's getting scary. Then I interviewed a woman named Casey Gates, and it's about the homosexual prisons in Australia. That's going to be playing tonight. Okay? The Stephen Zunis will play in the future. The Casey Gates story is fascinating. Okay? She actually put her father in prison for molesting her son. And then in this prison, which was a special prison that they had in Australia, just for homosexuals. They were doing experiments on them, medication, all kind of weird stuff going on there. So fascinating show there with her. She's never done an interview before, but I'm sure she will do many now after she's being discovered by Ed Offerman. I found her through Richard Kerr, by the way, the fellow who was in the Concourse School for Boys, who was sex trafficked by Roy Cohen. Okay, he's the one that found her. They were friends. They lived together for a while. And he hooked me up with her. Got another interview with Cerise Castle. Now, this is a fascinating topic, man, about the deputy gangs, that there are street gangs within the deputies, the sheriff of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. And we're talking about the atrocities they committed, but also, too, a while back, I forget how long it was, this guy came into contact with them, and he wound up dead. And later on, 10 days later, back in the spot where they first put the cuffs on him. And there were indications that he had cuffs on him, all kind of stuff like that. Then, just recently, they shot and killed one of the kids that was a witness to the cops interacting with this guy. He was only 14 years old. There's a GoFundMe. I should have had it pulled up and ready to go, man, but I've had a brutal week. Vic was here visiting and stuff like that. We just had a lot of emotional stuff happening this week. Okay, but she's doing great. So Cerise Castle's coming up later on tonight. I don't know which one I'm going to play first. I guess you'll be surprised. You'll find out that way. So there's all of that. There was, by the way, too, this Cerise Castle, this reporter, it turns out that she did a FOIA request on herself, her name being mentioned by the Sheriff's Department, and there's like 800 pages of them investigating her, the reporter. Okay, because for exposing these gangs, and these are like gangs, dealing drugs, doing hits, all that kind of stuff, man. These are real gangs, just like regular gangs. Okay, So let's try and get into this real quick because I got a lot of stuff I want to tell you about tonight. As some of you know, but it's shocking to me how little of you do know this, okay? That in 2016, in June of 2016, I was hired as the private investigator in that famous lawsuit that everybody's talking about all this week, the Katie Johnson lawsuit. Now, and I have a video, a podcast up called My Professional Involvement in the Katie Doe Trump Epstein Lawsuit. Now, why do I call it Katie Doe, and why do all the people involved in this litigation call it the Katie Doe case? Is because actually there were two complaints, okay? There were two complaints filed in this case. The first one, this woman filed a lawsuit, a pro se lawsuit, which means it's a do-it-yourself lawsuit. You don't have an attorney representing you. And the fellow that was helping her with this is kind of a fixer type guy, okay, hustler type guy, okay, who was helping her out with this lawsuit. If they had come to an attorney in the first place, this would have been a great lawsuit. So she did her own do-it-yourself lawsuit using the name Katie Johnson, and I believe she used a fake phone number too on the affidavit of complaint and a fake address. You can file a lawsuit under Jane Doe. You can file it that way, and then usually there's a hearing right away, and where you have to present evidence to the judge that there's a reason why we have to file this Jane Doe, because of embarrassment, because of threats, because of danger, and then the judge has to approve it. Okay, so what happened was with all this, I happened to be chatting on a messenger, instant messenger on Facebook with William Ramsey, and he sends me the PDF of this Katie Johnson pro se complaint. And he goes, oh, look at this. And then we saw it. We saw the phone number. We both called up the phone number right then and there. The number was disconnected that night. Okay. Then it wasn't, I guess, until about a month later, I was contacted by attorney Thomas Mayer, who's an attorney in New Jersey, about he needed a private investigator to work on his case because he was going to file another complaint against Trump and Epstein, but a real one, with a professional, okay, a real, done correctly. The first one, the Katie Johnson one, was thrown out on errors, and I believe the error was something simple, like she was a resident of California and she sued in the wrong court. Something that happens all the time, by the way. Jurisdiction's incorrect. Remember when that guy who kept saying subject matter jurisdiction. The guy with I forget his name at the moment now, but that guy who ran over all those people up there in Wisconsin. Anyway, so the first one was thrown out. Now, so this week, a hashtag came out called Trump Pedophiles, Files. And the confusion here is, with all this, is because people saw that these grand jury transcripts was released on July 1st. And there was one exhibit in there with a phone message from Trump to Epstein. And so people conflated that with this. Suddenly, this thing went viral, the Katie Johnson lawsuit. And what they're doing is they're posting one page of this complaint with some of her allegations on there. But it's the wrong one. It's the one that's been thrown out. And they've been posting this damn thing over and over and over and over. And he's Seth Abramson, not people who should know way better, man, And some of these crackpots that have these, 100,000 Twitter followers, man, they think they're experts on Epstein and stuff like that. They're posting this damn thing. It's the wrong one. And how does this happen? I think it's purpose. I think it's on purpose disinformation by the Epstein media machine that creates these crazy memes about islands and Lolita Express and all this nonsense, okay? And it's really kind of weird, too, because in the past few months, by no reason of my own, just by, luck, I guess you could call it luck, okay, or whatever. Maybe just I've been alive too long. But first we had I interviewed Bill Hamilton from Inslaw and Promise Software, and then I did 3 hours with him exclusive. The guy's never done an interview in 45 years. Got 3 hours in the can with him, and then suddenly, I didn't know what was coming, but this Netflix documentary comes up about Octopus and Danny Casolaro and Promise Software. So everyone's all over Twitter and everywhere talking about that and Facebook and stuff like that. What a great documentary this is. And here I got the real guy. So, I'm walking around reading boxes, doing research. I'm talking to the guy who's at the center of the case. And believe me, he told me a lot of stuff on the air on our show. He sent me a lot of documents that weren't covered in that stupid documentary. Then what do we get next? Stormy Daniels. And by the way, there's a connection between this Katie Johnson lawsuit and the Stormy Daniels lawsuit, too, or Stormy Daniels deal. I'm one connection. Okay. All right. But what happened was, okay, the Stormy Daniels trial comes up, right, in the past couple of months. And I know everybody involved in that deal, okay? I know Keith Davidson. I think you just heard his commercial. And his sponsor for the show. He's my client for 10 years, 11 years. Then Gina Rodriguez, the agent who was Stormy Daniels' agent that put this deal together, she was my agent and my client for like 8 years, okay? Dylan Howard, I know him. They talk about Keith Schiller in there. I worked with him, so I was intimately had knowledge of that case. But let me tell you a part that maybe the public doesn't know. I don't think the public does know. Is when I got hired by Thomas Mayer to come on this case and to do some investigation work for him on the Jane Doe lawsuit, the same 13-year-old girl, and it's Jane Doe versus Trump and Epstein. Okay? But that version, the correct version that did not get thrown out, has 3 witness affidavit statements. Okay. One is by a woman named Tiffany. Her first name is Tiffany Doe, and her first real name is Tiffany. Okay, in that case, all right. And by the way, I know all their real names. I've done I got their social security numbers. I did criminal background checks on them. I did credit reports on them. I did all kinds of because there were things I needed to prove. And by the way, I went back to find some dates and some names and stuff like this in this lawsuit in the past couple of days this week, because I needed to find the correct PDF of the complaint and affidavits. So I was looking through my emails. And I've always been kind of hesitant to talk about this. I said, I was the PI in the case. And I always kind of thought, well, I didn't really do that much on that case. But going back, I wasn't paid much. Okay, because going back, I'm looking at some of the reports I produced on that damn. I did some really, really good work, man. I was really focused. I was really paying attention. I was passionate about this. I did some really good work in that case. But the stuff I'm really proud of seeing it myself. I hope one day I can publish it somehow to you, when Thomas Mayer hired me in July of 2016, not just my usual retainer agreement, which says, I have to keep everything confidential and he has to keep everything confidential. He can't tell people he hired me. I can't tell people he hired me. There's a lot of things there. But on top of that, we had to do an additional non-disclosure agreement. This is how concerned he was about me talking about being on this case. I don't blame him because I was on the radio. Now, the way he found me is back, because I did the first radio show by Jeffrey Epstein in 2013. Okay? So by 2014, 2015, when you Googled the name Ed Opperman and then you went to Google Images, Jeffrey Epstein's picture would come up associated with my name. That's how connected I was to this case. No one was talking about Jeffrey Epstein back in 2013. I couldn't find a guest to come on the show. So I looked all over YouTube to see if somebody knew could talk about that I could interview about Jeffrey Epstein. There was nobody. Okay? So that's how Thomas Mayer found me. He knew I was an expert on Epstein, and he knew that I was a private investigator, and I had a very good reputation being a private investigator. So he came to me. Okay. Let's see how we're doing here. I got a lot of notes, but they're kind of sloppy. It kind of sucks because I'm looking at my notes, and I was looking at all my reports back in 2016. Those are great reports, man. Look at these sloppy notes. It's embarrassing. I'm getting old. What are you going to do? Now, I didn't get permission from Mr. Mayer to talk about this until after Epstein's death. And then I was allowed to talk about it. But even then, I'm still not allowed to talk about it. I was interviewed by the BBC about Jeffrey Epstein. And when I'm holding on the phone right before the interview starts, they says, by the way, we don't want you to mention the Trump-Epstein lawsuit. And I said, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to answer your questions. You ask me whatever questions you want. Okay, I'm not going to crowbar it in there. Same exact thing happened with a certain YouTuber had me on a show. And right before I was about to go live, they says, by the way, Ed, take it easy on Trump. Okay, I think I did mention the lawsuit then, but no follow-up questions, no, nothing really about it. Then another time, I was interviewed by the Epoch Times. Okay, and it was a video podcast interview, And in the middle of the interview, I mentioned that I was the PI in this case, and that's it. They never aired the interview. So I've done some interviews about this where I've talked about it, but I guess not enough that people recognize me as the guy involved in this whole thing. So these hashtags come out about the Trump Twitter files, Trump Epstein, Katie Johnson, right? But the problem is that they're posting the wrong complaint, all right? And the right one has 3 supporting affidavits. Now, when I posted this in Patreon, the correct version with the 3 affidavits, one is by Jane Doe, Katie Johnson. Another one is by Joan Doe, who was a high school classmate of hers. And the other one, Tiffany Doe, is a woman that worked for Epstein in New York. First as a massage type person. Then later on as a party planner where she was recruiting young girls. So she did this affidavit for Katie Johnson way back in 2016. Now keep in mind, back in 2016, it wasn't common knowledge, okay, that Epstein had this little Amway type recruitment system of hiring one little girl to hire another little girl to bring over to his homes there. That wasn't commonly known. I can't say the next part, but I wish I could. Okay. Now, by the way, too, they're posting in this. There's another meme out there where they talks about Katie Johnson, and they're posting a picture of a little girl who looks a lot like Ivanka Trump, and it says Katie Johnson raped at 13. I don't know where that picture comes from. Maybe it comes from a news article or something someplace. I have no idea. I've never seen it before in my context of working on this in real life. I've seen pictures of all these women as adults, from their time, and usually in the 90s, about something from the 90s, because this is where the time span where we wanted to confirm all this. No. These were the pictures of in 2015 when they were adults, okay? Because in the 90s, that's when they were little kids in school. I'm thinking about me being in the 90s. Okay. Now, one of the things that's unknown about this is there were many, many, many attorneys involved in this. Okay. One is a fellow named Evan Goldman, who's an expert on sexual harassment, sexual battery cases. This type of case. He's an expert on it. Another one was Cheney Mason. Remember Casey Anthony and Jose Baez down in Florida? That Cheney Mason, who's a really big shot lawyer. That guy's no slouch. He was on this case. He was he's on the co-counsel of the Jane Doe complaint and affidavit. He was on at the beginning. Another person, let me tell you, I tried to shop this thing around to a lot of people. Nobody turned it down. Everybody who read my case summary, okay, was down to take this case, okay? But, I would put him in touch with the mayor, who was my boss in this matter. And what went on with them, why they couldn't come to agreements and deals, I don't know, okay? That's none of my business, okay? But I do know that nobody turned down this case. Everybody wanted on board. One of the lawyers I talked to was Keith Davidson, okay? And it's just by coincidence at the same time. This is July of 2016. This is when he was negotiating the Stormy Daniels deal, okay, behind the scenes. All right? It's a small freaking world, man, I'm telling you. Okay? But he didn't come on the case either, you know what? And then he forgot that I'm the guy that brought him in on it, okay? Then Lisa Bloom later on came on, okay? So Lisa Bloom was the very last lawyer, okay? Now, people who say, Ed, I took a look at this case, And probably they looked at the first one, probably, you know. And I took a deep dive on this, and I couldn't prove it. I don't believe her. The only person they don't believe was raped by Epstein is if they were also raped by Trump. Because nobody wants to believe Maria Farmer. Nobody wants to believe Sarah Ransom. Nobody wants to believe Katie Johnson. And why is that? The only reason why is the Trump. Okay, is that they all mention Trump. Okay, in a negative manner. When meanwhile, people will believe these total crackpots. Remember that woman Collins who came on my show? She didn't come on the show. She tried to get on the show. But I had that woman from the Sex Workers Anonymous thing. I forget her name. And we both had contact with that Collins woman. She was totally full of it, man. Her case was BS. She's got hundreds of thousands of followers. People believe in her. And these other characters, I don't want to mention their names because I have no direct involvement with them. But there's a lot of people out there claiming to be associated to this case in some way. And they've got hundreds of thousands of Twitter followers and loyal fans and subjects, you know, and just so far from any real involvement. It's just all in their freaking heads, man. It's just all fantasy. And then you got a lot of people, too, that are authors and experts and podcasters and all this, too. Again, no direct personal involvement. Nobody knows them in any of this stuff. Nobody dealt with them. You know, I just gave you names of a half dozen lawyers that I was involved in on this day. Okay, then you got, why was the case dropped by Lisa Bloom? Okay, this was right before the election. This was in November. In fact, it was about 3 or 4 days before the election. Lisa Bloom and Katie Johnson were going to have a press conference, and it was going to be live streamed. I forgot to look up the name of the guy. And there was a dedicated denial of service on the live stream servers and on Lisa Bloom's website, shutting them both down. Now, what a dedicated denial of service is, they have so many bot computers out there that they can direct traffic to these websites until they're overloaded and they get shut down. Okay? Now, remember that guy who tried the Russian coup? Let me find this guy's name, because this is important. Okay, I forgot to put this in my notes today. Russian coup. It's dark in here. RUSSIANCOUP. Internet Research. I just want internet. Internet. RESEAR. Research Group. They had a troll factory. The Wagner Group, that guy. Oh, yeah, here it goes. Okay, I can never pronounce this guy's name, but it's Yevgeny Prigozhin. Okay, and he ran the Wagner Group. That was a mercenary group, right? And he tried that coup against Putin. Now he's dead in a plane crash now, supposedly. Who knows? But he had a company called the Internet Research Group. And what he had bragged to people, by the way, he said he was very hands-on with that group. And he had bragged to people that he could redirect porn traffic to get any website shut down. And the Internet Research Group was actually charged by James Comey, by Mueller, in the Mueller report, that he was involved in helping Trump win the election. And some guys from Staten Island were actually indicted. So way back around that time, I did some research on these guys on Staten Island. I found their websites. Really, really, really creepy porn websites .ru on Russian domain names. Really stuff that I don't think would even be illegal in the United States, okay? So I believe that it was this fellow here, the Internet Research Group, that directed that traffic to Lisa Bloom and to the live stream servers in order to get them shut down. This was an attack that was like a state level attack. It wasn't like Anonymous doing this or a bunch of goofy guys on Reddit, okay, or 4chan. This is a professional operation to take this thing down. So everyone involved got all panicky and nervous. I wasn't on a case, by the way, at this time. I was long off of this case by the time Lisa Bloom came in and took over. But that's the reason why the case was dropped. Then, later on that week, Sean Hannity is doing an interview. I think it was Corey Lewandowski. I got to find this interview one day. It was after the election when Trump won. And Hannity goes, "Boy, you know, we dodged a bullet this week." And the guest goes, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Epstein." Okay. So there's that too. Okay. So not only was Sean Hannity very aware of this lawsuit, he felt that if the live stream had gone out, if that press conference had gone out, that they would have taken a bullet, and perhaps Trump would not have won. But somehow, some friendly internet DDS attackers were able to shut down that press conference. By the way, too, while I was shopping this around, too, I spoke to an attorney who was interested in taking the case, and he's the one that described to me that there was a package of photos. When I started talking about Trump and Epstein, he goes, "Is that deal out there where they're shopping those packages of photos of Trump on Epstein's plane and Epstein's on Trump's plane, and it's like porn stars, and Clinton on Epstein's plane and Epstein on Clinton's plane, you know, and there's a bunch of porn stars. Is that what you're talking about?" I go, "No, this has nothing to do with that. This is a girl got raped at 13. But there were packages of photos of Trump on Epstein's plane and Epstein on Trump's plane that were being shopped around along with this other package of photos of Clinton. They were bought up and killed, disappeared, gone, you know, kept away from the press." Then what we have here, too, is one of the things that people always say, "Well, that's all lies, it's fake." Ed, you can get a lawyer to do anything. You know, one of the lawyers I know very well, he would not have taken a case if he didn't believe it. Okay, if it couldn't be verified from our standpoint. But why would they hire a private investigator if they're cooking up the whole thing, right? And it's all a bunch of lies. What do they need a private investigator for? This was done on a shoestring budget, pro bono. Why would they need to pay me to work on this if they're just going to be making everything up? Can you explain that to me? Especially a guy like me that can't keep his mouth shut. When I know someone's lying. Okay, you know. Now, let me give you one more. Steve Bannon. Remember the Roy Moore scandal where that guy was running for Senate or something like that, or Congress, right, in some hillbilly town, and Steve Bannon was promoting him, and they found out this guy was involved in all kinds of perving on kids at the mall and all kind of crazy stuff. Man, he picked up one girl in the courthouse when he was the prosecutor. And in fact, he was banned from going to the mall. He was perving on so many kids. And Ivanka said, "I cannot support Roy Moore." What was Steve Bannon's response to that? Steve Bannon, who to this day is a Trump insider and was very, very close friends with Jeffrey Epstein. They even did some financial deals back together way back before anybody knew who they were. And also, too, I think Steve Bannon prepped him for one of his depositions or something. What did Steve Bannon say when Ivanka started attacking Roy Moore? He says, "Well, what about her father and that 13-year-old? So here you have Steve Bannon. He's friends with Epstein. He's friends with Trump. And he believes the accuracy of this lawsuit and the legitimacy of this lawsuit, that this kid was raped at 13 by his two friends. That's what that's what he said. What about that lawsuit with the 13-year-old? Your father's just as guilty as Roy Moore." Okay. People will say about this too. So one of the arguments they'll make is, "Hey, Ed, how come this isn't all over the news?" Well, here I am, the guy involved. I'm going on the BBC. They tell me not to talk about it. That's why it's not all over the news. Okay, I've talked about it here plenty of times, and a bunch of podcasts, radio interviews, stuff like that. But, people just don't pay attention. People don't listen. And they'd rather listen to some nut on Twitter who has 200,000 followers, half of them probably fake, when they're posting disinformation. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. One of these women, she posts, here is a sworn deposition in the Katie Johnson lawsuit. Right? And she posts the original affidavit and complaint. The first one, the Katie Johnson one. And I contact her and I sent her a message on Twitter. And I said, no. There was no depositions in this case. There wasn't one. So I know it's not from a deposition. And I said, and that's not even the right one. That's an affidavit and complaint. But that's not even the right one. That's the first one that was tossed out. Here, look. Here's the real one. Okay? No comment. No comment back to that. Okay, no comment back to that. You know, because she tried to say back to me that, I never said it was a deposition. And then I took a screenshot, sworn deposition right there. That's exactly what she said. So that's one thing. People say Hochman's not on the news. Okay. I've tried to talk about it on the news. They wouldn't play it. Okay. All right. Then the other one, Steve Bannon endorsed it. The other one, too, is people will turn around and say, but Ed, Trump banished Epstein from Mar-a-Lago the minute he found out. Well, we know from the grand jury transcripts that these crimes started taking place in 2004. We know that there was a grand jury hearing in 2006. That was public. That stuff was in the paper. Okay. The conviction was in 2008. Trump banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago about 2 months before the guilty plea, the plea deal. All right. Now, you remember last week I told you about all this stuff about the trailer park, and there's one girl that's been to the house hundreds of times, and teenagers in the trailer park 20 minutes away. I think it's the Evergreen Trailer Park. And one of the cops testified that everyone at Royal Palms High School, nobody didn't know about this. And then also, too, I interviewed that guy, Jose Lambert, I think it was, Labur, who's a private investigator and does opposition research down there. He's a gossip columnist down there in Palm Beach. He said that Epstein was so obsessed with some of these girls, he'd be driving his Lamborghini around the trailer park looking for some of these girls. So everybody knew about Epstein. Everybody knew what this guy was doing. I was just talking to somebody on Facebook the other night who lived in Palm Beach. She goes, yeah, I know it. I've been to Mar-a-Lago. Everybody knew. Okay? So you got that. Because Vicky Ward hangs out at Mar-a-Lago, too. I mean, she was talking about this. All right? She did the interview with Trump about the friends with Epstein for 13 years. Wonderful guy. Likes girls as young as mine do. Okay, now... So Trump didn't ban him from Mar-a-Lago until right before he pled guilty. All right? And they asked Epstein, what is the reason why? Epstein used to do this thing where he would host this lunch with these comedians in New York and pay them to come down and have lunch with him at a gathering. And one time, two of them asked him and says, hey, you must know Donald Trump, right? He goes, oh, yeah, I know Donald Trump, but we're not friends anymore. This is after his conviction. And I go, oh, why? And he goes, for moral reasons. Jeffrey Epstein has moral issues with Trump. Even Jeffrey Epstein has moral issues with Trump. And I go, well, what do you mean, moral reasons? He goes, Trump would do this thing where he would try to sleep with his friends' wives, the wives of his own friends. Okay? And he would do this big... thing where he would bring the guy into his office, call up his wife on the speakerphone, and then bring the guy into his office. And while the guy's wife is listening, he would say, hey, man, why don't you come down to the Playboy Mansion with me and we can get laid? I got these girls down there. And the guy would go, oh, man, great. I don't understand how I can get away from the house, but yeah, I'll do it. So then he would expose them in front of their wives, not tell at either party, not tell the guy the wife's on the speakerphone. And then go sleep with the wife so the wife would get revenge against her husband. Now, sounds crazy, right? But the exact same story is in the book Fire and Fury by Michael Wolff. Okay? Exact same story. Who runs in these same circles. Michael Wolff got into the White House because he's friends with Steve Bannon. Okay? And he tells this exact same story about Trump doing this thing. How would Epstein know? How would Epstein have this reason that comes out in a book years later? Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, there's one more thing about this case I'd like to give you some information about. While I was working on this, but I was still under the NDA, I taped an interview with Wayne Madsen. And Wayne came on my show, and it says a girl went missing in Waterbury whose name was Maria. And he thinks that's because they mention another girl in this paperwork that Trump threatened them and says, if you say anything about this, you'll wind up just like Maria. All right. So Madsen thinks he identified Maria. I couldn't, during this interview, say, hey, Wayne Madsen, this is my case. I don't think it's the same Maria. Okay. But I did say, hey, man, have you ever sent this over to the attorneys? He goes, and he admitted, no, he hadn't. I knew he hadn't. But anyway, so that's a little sidebar there, too. Wayne Madsen's a good guy. He's a sincere guy. I think he's legit and all that kind of stuff like that. But he just found some girl who had the same name who went missing somehow in Waterbury, Connecticut, and he made the connection there. I think if you want to find the real Maria, what you would do is it would take a lot of money and a lot of time. Trump, when he had Trump Modeling Management, he would import these girls, and it said on his website, as young as 12 years old, he would import them from other countries using HB1 visas. So what I would do if I was trying to find Maria, I would look up all the HB1 visas that Trump Modeling Management applied for and find the ones named Maria and talk to all those women. That's how I would do it. Now, the other one people love to say is, but Ed, Trump's never been to Pedo Island. Trump's never been on Epstein's plane. Well, it came out now he has been on the plane 7 times. But it doesn't matter. The planes and the island are a distraction. We just saw from the grand jury testament that hundreds of times in 1 year, he was raping little girls in Palm Beach. Okay? Not on an island. On Palm Beach. Not on a plane. In Palm Beach. He was raping girls that lived 20 minutes away in the trailer park. Not picking them up there and taking them to an island. He was taking them back to his house. In fact, they were showing up to their house in their own cars that he was providing for some of these kids. Okay? So this whole business of Trump not being on a plane log or being at an island, okay, it's just complete disinformation. Okay? It doesn't matter. $1,100 South Ocean Boulevard, Palm Beach, Florida. That's the address of Mar-a-Lago. Then the other one is 358 El Brillo Way, Palm Beach, Florida. That's Epstein's house. Do you know how far those two properties are from each other? 0.09 miles. Less than 1 mile. Less than 1 mile. You don't need a plane. There would be no reason, okay, to take a plane, okay, to go to the airport. What would you do? You'd go to West Palm Beach Airport, fly up and land at the same airport, and then go to the other guy's house? Of course there's no plane. Where did they live in Manhattan? 9 East 71st Street. That's Epstein's mansion over there on 71st Street, right? And by the way, too, if you go there, it's right next door to Bill Cosby's place, where Bill Cosby's taking these drugged women and tossing them into cabs in the middle of the night. And then you got Epstein with little girls walking in and out of there all day long from the adult school. There is a little police hut. There's a little, those little booths where they would set the cop there, to keep warm outside when he's on patrol. Right there. An eye shot of all this. I guess he was writing tickets or eating donuts or something, right? So you got 9 East 71st Street is Epstein's mansion, and you got Trump Tower is where? 725 Fifth Avenue, okay? Again, 0.09 miles, less than 1 mile apart. They don't need a plane for that either, guys. They don't need a plane for that either. So forget this stuff about the plane. Forget this stuff about the island. Hey. That actually looks like all I have left as far as the Katie Johnson lawsuit. Okay. There are some things I'd love to tell you about that, but I can't right now. Other things that confirm it in my head. but some things you can't do. And you know, when I was working on this, I can't talk about that either. But who knows? Maybe one day I could tell you more about it. But you got to explain to me, man, how I could be involved in these three big things here. They're all over the news, and just everybody getting it all wrong, and nobody bothers to ask me what's going on. I posted the link. It's in Patreon. It's for free. To the 2016 Katie Johnson, the real Katie Johnson lawsuit against Trump and Epstein. Must have posted 30, 40 times this week. No one said, hey, Ed, tell me about it. All these big super... Seth Abramson. Whoa, you would appear. Tell me what happened in the case. You know, what can you tell me? I'm posting a picture of something. I don't know what it is. A picture of some little girl that says Katie Johnson, and I'm posting it. I don't know who vetted that thing out. Hey. Had a really rough week there this week here with Victoria coming to visit. Very, 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 very emotional, you know. And I got to tell you, man, my health is even worse than it was last week right now. I tried to do this interview today. I was out of breath. Speaking of getting old, you got Mr. Biden's press conference, right? Where I got, you know, in so many ways I feel for the man. He reminds me a lot of my dad, you know. But you get old, you're just not as sharp as you used to be, man. What are you going to do? You know, nothing you can do about it. I can tell you some things about the Democratic National Committee and how they're running this campaign for Biden. And I got to tell you, it's a mess, okay? I got this from inside people that it takes hours for any kind of talking points to be approved. With responses, you know, are not being, even the night of the debate, it was 15 minutes before they sent their surrogates out to respond to anything because they didn't have the talking points down yet. Has to go back and forth for approval all over the place, man. And it's just, you know, it's a big freaking mess, man. I'll tell you something else, okay? This thing with George Clooney writing that letter, that statement saying that he thinks that Biden should drop out. The word is he spoke to Obama about that before he put it out. Clooney and Obama have had a relationship when Obama was a junior House of Representatives congressman. And there was a press conference one time where they both showed up in this little tiny room around a bunch of chairs, you know, their little tables, picnic tables, not picnic tables, but, you know, card tables. And Obama was deferring to George Clooney, like treating George Clooney like a superstar when Obama was just like this coffee boy. Okay. And then what else do we have about the Clooney strange guy? His wife is like an international lawyer, you know, and she's the one who advised Julian Assange to go seek sanctuary in the Ecuadorian embassy over there. Anyway, so that's a kind of weird thing. And also Axelrod, too. He's another one that's an Obama guy that's running around doing all this stuff. All right. I'm exhausted. Coming up after this will be... I'm going to play the Casey Gates about the homosexual prisons first. And I'm going to play the Cerise Castle about the deputy gangs. Both good shows, by the way. And also, too, I've got about 6 interviews lined up the next 6 days or so. Taping one tomorrow, and I got one almost every day this week. So I got a lot of fresh content coming in. Plus, things always... Publishers and stuff always come to me trying to get their authors on the show. So keep an eye out for all that. I could really use some Patreon, some new Patreons, you know, to help support what's going on here. But most importantly, like even with this, now Katie Johnson's all over news. If I just had someone to help me make some TikToks from the audio, you know, that would say, you know, be about Katie Johnson lawsuit, Trump, Epstein, blah, blah, blah. Then you get that traffic and then drive that traffic over to Patreon and Spreaker. I would be able to do this for a few months longer if I could just get some help. But the thing is, my health is so bad, guys. You know, I can't keep doing this, man. And funding all this myself, too. I just can't. Can't do it. You know, I'm going to miss you. I'll tell you that. I'm going to miss you. but I just can't do it. I need the help. I need some Patreons. I need some subscribers, maybe some sponsors too. I could pick up some more stations always. But, definitely need some TikToks made and some new Patreons, and also to retweet and share the shows on Twitter and Facebook. That's always a big help too. I'm not sure if I can remember what else I wanted to say, but we're out of time anyway. All right, guys, keep an eye out for the next show. It's going to be the Casey Gates.
Spring was never waiting for us, girl. It ran one step ahead as we followed in the dance. Between the parted pages and we're pressed in love's hot fevered iron like a striped pair of pants. The spark is melting in the dark, all the sweet green icing flowing down. Someone left the cake out in the rain. I don't think that I can take it, 'cause it took so long to bake it, and I'll never have that recipe again. Oh no. I recall the yellow cotton dress foaming like a wave on the ground around your knees. The birds like tender babies in your hands, and the old men playing checkers by the trees. This park is melting in the dark, all the sweet green icing flowing down. Someone left the cake out in the rain. I don't think that I can take it, 'cause it took so long to bake it, and I'll never have the recipe again. Oh no. There will be another dream for me. Someone will bring it. I will drink the wine while it is warm, and never let you catch me looking at the sun. And after all the loves of my life, after all the loves in my life, you'll still be the one. I will take my life into my hands, and I will use it. I will win the worship in their eyes, and I will lose it. I will have the things that I desire, and my passion flow like rivers through the sky. And after all the loves Martha's Park is melting in the dark. All the sweet green icing flowing down.